Have you ever bought a cosmetic product that sounded amazing in the description but turned out to be completely useless? If so, I'm not surprised at all. Cosmetics manufacturers often use not just one or two, but an entire system of tricks on us customers to make us feel encouraged, convinced, and spend our money, even if the product doesn't deserve our attention. And it's not about outright fraud. We're talking about legal, permitted, but very subtle tactics. If you're thinking, that doesn't work on me, I'm not that easily fooled, then listen to what the first marketing trick of cosmetics manufacturers is. Trick number 1. Watch out for complexes. Let's start with something that seems very innocent at first glance. You're walking through a drugstore, you look at a label and see it contains 5% vitamin E complex or 10% hyaluronic acid complex. Sounds great, right? But is it really? No one mentions that such a complex is often a mixture of many substances, with the active ingredients sometimes present only in trace amounts. So, in a so-called 10% hyaluronic acid complex, there could theoretically be as little as 0.01% hyaluronic acid, and the rest are other substances. And all of this is perfectly legal, because we can make up the names of complexes ourselves. By the way, maybe one day I'll create a Dr. Monica complex in my own cosmetic product. Why not? Marketing plays on our trust in numbers here. Percentages are supposed to act like a magnet, but very rarely do they mean exactly what we imagine. What's worse, manufacturers are not required to disclose the exact content of the active ingredient, and a large number of them are happy to take advantage of this privilege. What does this mean? It means that as a consumer, you might think you're buying a very effective product, but in reality, you're buying the illusion of effectiveness. All based on creative naming. But it's not just numbers that can mislead us. More and more often, we also fall for something completely different. The appearance, specifically a green appearance. Trick number 2. Greenwashing. Imagine this situation. You're watching a commercial for a cosmetic product where a woman, surrounded by greenery, is picking tropical fruits bathed in the setting sun. Then those fruits are transformed into an extract and magically end up in a beautiful green package labeled eco and natural. The woman applies the cosmetic to her face and says a slogan like, "Cosmetics created in harmony with the planet. Ham kak di sa kya echaki." If, while listening to this description, you felt that such a cosmetic is good not only for you but also for the planet, then you've fallen victim to greenwashing. Greenwashing refers to strategies that are meant to suggest eco-friendliness, but aren't backed up by the ingredients, production process, or certification. That means green packaging, biased advertisements, empty slogans that evoke positive associations with the environment, and all sorts of tricks that in practice mean nothing. Often, products advertised this way have absolutely nothing at all to do with caring for the environment or the planet. Their method of production, plastic packaging, or cheap materials can harm the environment just as much or even more than cosmetics that don't present themselves as eco-friendly at all. The hardest thing about greenwashing is that it's difficult to recognize without the right knowledge. So if you have doubts, look for certificates like the ones now displayed on the screen. These are well-known and important certificates in the cosmetics world that guarantee specific standards. And remember, natural doesn't always mean better. Speaking of empty slogans, do you know what else can be empty? The product's packaging. Trick number 3. The product's volume. Have you ever opened a box of cosmetics and felt disappointed when you saw how tiny the tube was? That's no accident. Manufacturers know that we buy with our eyes. A bigger package means more, and that means it's a better deal. But a bigger package doesn't necessarily mean there's more product inside. For example, a common trick is to place the tube or bottle on a cardboard platform inside the box. This makes the box much bigger than it needs to be, but the product looks great on the shelf. How else are we being fooled? The weight of the packaging also matters. Very thick glass, double walls, huge caps. All of this increases the perceived value when you pick up the product in the store. Now do a simple test for yourself. Do you know what the packaging of the cream you use today looks like? Of course you do. But do you know how many milliliters that packaging holds? Exactly. 40, 50, 60, or maybe 100 milliliters? It's a huge price difference for manufacturers depending on how much product they put in the packaging, but they know that you buy with your eyes. If you're overwhelmed by how we're exposed to marketing at every turn, I have a great suggestion for you. I've written an ebook called Understanding Cosmetics, in which I'll teach you how to make smart decisions when buying cosmetics and how to take care of your appearance wisely. This is a book that will pay for itself in no time, because you'll stop buying cosmetics that don't work and start making smart purchasing decisions. Click the link in the description and download your copy. And now, let's get back to another trick that cosmetic manufacturers use on us. And that is promotions. Trick number 4. Promotions. If you're walking through a drugstore or scrolling through products in an online shop and you see amazing promotions, be careful, because you might be getting played like a pawn in chess. Before you put a cosmetic product in your basket, check this one key thing. Many cosmetics go on sale just before their expiration date. It's legal and generally speaking fair, but not always beneficial for you as a customer. If you buy a cream with a short expiration date and you already have another one open, it might turn out that you won't manage to use it up in time, and then even 50% off is still a loss for you. Sometimes, very rarely but still, there are promotions where cosmetics are sold cheaply because an ingredient they contain is about to be withdrawn from the market. Currently, this might be the case, for example, with nano products or with retinol above 0.3%, which soon will no longer be allowed to be sold. But you probably wouldn't buy a product with something that's unhealthy anyway, right? After all you need to do is check if the label says paraben-free, and then you're safe. Well, not exactly, and that's what the next point is about. Trick number 5, paraben-free. This is the most surprising trick in the whole video. At first glance, such messages seem like something positive. After all, if something is not included, it must mean that thing is bad. But wait, here we enter a very delicate play on words. According to the guidelines of the Polish Association of the Cosmetic Industry, you cannot present as an advantage something that is actually the norm, and parabens, even though they have a bad reputation, are legal to use in cosmetics at certain concentrations. It's the same with claims like does not contain colorants, even though colorants are allowed, or does not contain SLS and SLS. Speaking of SLS and SLS, that's the most interesting example. When you look for information about the harmfulness of SLS and SLES, the easiest thing to find is that they're said to be carcinogenic. However, there are no reliable studies or sources that indicate this, even in the slightest degree. It's believed to be a snowball effect, caused by the fact that the online community eagerly spreads controversial, though not necessarily true information. Maybe now you're thinking, but Monica, I'd rather not buy anything with SLS if I can't be 100% sure it's safe. And if that's what you thought, I have 2 important pieces of information for you. First of all, SLS and SLEs are very common in household chemicals. Don't believe me? Go to your kitchen now, grab your dishwashing liquid, and check if the ingredients list mentions anionic surfactants. That's the same thing. Secondly, imagine you're walking through a drugstore and you see a cosmetic product with a big label. It doesn't contain vitamin E, and next to it, on the store window, there's a big poster. We don't sell anything that contains vitamin E. How would that make you feel about vitamin E? If someone is making a point of saying this, maybe vitamin E is actually bad after all. This is a made-up example, but that's exactly why mass and deliberate banning of certain ingredients that aren't considered harmful can disrupt the transparency of the cosmetics industry. Speaking of transparency, I have one last trick for you, one that you've definitely fallen victim to at some point in the past. It's about research results. Trick number 6, 95% effectiveness. Alright, now that you know big brands can play with packaging, volume, and even reputation, it's time to talk about one more tactic. One that sounds especially professional. But what happens when we look behind the scenes? Exactly. You'll be surprised how easy it is to get a scientific-sounding confirmation of a cream's effectiveness, and how little it sometimes actually means. On the packaging of a cosmetic, you see a slogan. 95% of women confirmed its effectiveness, or studies confirm visible skin smoothing. It sounds convincing, but what does this message really mean? In many cases, it's about application studies. This is a method that involves conducting a very simple test. Participants receive a cosmetic to use for several weeks. After that time, they fill out a questionnaire. They answer questions like, in your opinion, is your skin smoother? If more than half of the participants select the answer yes, the manufacturer can legally state that the effect has been confirmed by studies. And now it gets interesting. Why? Because such a survey can be conducted, for example, on 20 people, and if 19 of them say that their skin is smoother, we already have our 95% effectiveness. Simple? Very. But is this reliable scientific evidence? Not necessarily. What's more, the manufacturer can ask 5 similar versions of the same question, pick the one that gave the best result, and show only that one in the marketing message. Completely legally. Just to be clear, I'm not saying that such studies are bad. Quite the opposite. These are voluntary studies that can actually tell you, the customers, a lot about the cosmetic. However, presenting only a selective few answers with an emphasis on that 95% can suggest something different to an unaware consumer. That's why when analyzing such statements about studies, I wouldn't really recommend relying on those percentages. By the way, it's actually quite rare for the results of application studies to be provided at all, so as a rule, treat their disclosure as an advantage, not a drawback. Just don't get too attached to those numbers and everything will be fine. Smart skincare begins where marketing ends. If you feel like you want to understand cosmetic ingredients, tricks, and manufacturers' promises, click the link below the video and check out my ebook, Understanding Cosmetics. That's over 190 pages of knowledge, recommendations for more than 140 cosmetics, and 3 attractive bonuses. Zero nonsense and only the essentials from a doctor and a cosmetic technologist. This ebook will pay for itself after your first visit to the drugstore. I also invite you to watch the video where I talk about which cosmetics not to use because they're harmful. The thumbnail for that video is now showing on the screen. Click on it and be sure to watch, because I'm certain the situations I describe there also apply to you. And if you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment here to help with reach. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video about cosmetics. Kisses. Subtitles and translation Piotr Michoki.